Can you imagine teaching all of your lessons to a class who are all working at the same level? Life would be so easy. However, we know this is not the case. And in reality, we teach children who may have barriers in their lives, which may mean they can struggle to access education without support or intervention. So when we look at our pupils sat in our classroom, we know we have a responsibility to meet all of their needs. Hi everyone, I'm Alex from My Progression, and this is the first of 2 videos that are exploring mixed ability classrooms. In this video, we're going to be looking at the different kinds of learners you may encounter in your classroom and how these learners may be grouped and how you can use these groups to make sure that everyone is able to access learning that is appropriate and relevant for them. In our next video, we're going to be exploring how to support the different needs you may come across in your mixed ability class, along with some helpful do's and don'ts. Before we start, what is mixed ability? A mixed ability class or teaching system is one in which pupils of different abilities are taught together in the same class. Most of us would probably assume that all of our classes are mixed ability. However, we can broaden that definition and add more to expand on the terminology. Mixed ability includes people facing a whole range of barriers to participation, including physical and learning disabilities, mental and physical health. When we talk about mixed ability, we understand that no child is the same in the class. Sometimes there can be up to a 12-month age gap between pupils in your class, which with EYFS can be a really big difference. Each child will come from a unique and possibly diverse family background and social settings. They will have different interests in a variety of areas, and due to their range of abilities, there will be differences in their academic learning. It goes without saying that as a teacher of a mixed ability group, it can be difficult to plan and deliver lessons that accommodate all of your pupils' needs. You must make sure you engage and challenge your more able pupils, as well as including your less able ones, to ensure they're involved in a productive learning experience. Sometimes the range of abilities within your class could be quite small, but more often than not, you're going to come across lots of unique learners with lots of differences to consider. Remember, your priority is to make sure that all of your pupils participate in learning that is appropriate for them. So having an understanding of who your class is made up of and what their abilities may be is going to be crucial. When it comes to discussing the abilities of your class, most people would assume that we're talking about children that are high achievers and those that need a lot of support. But a purely academic approach to the abilities of your class could be limiting or narrow-minded. So let's have a look at the range of learners that you might have in your classroom. The most obvious difference is the age gap of your pupils. As we've previously mentioned, this gap can be quite pronounced in a school setting, and these age gaps could mean differences in their development too. Personally, I'm a September baby, but my closest friend at school was born the following August. By the time I'd started school, I'd had 11 more months of social interaction and development before entering formal learning. This gap will naturally become less pronounced as children move through their school years, but it may become more prevalent when pupils start to reach puberty. Behavioural, social or emotional differences may be something you need to accommodate in your class. Your pupils may have come from different backgrounds, have experienced trauma in their home life, or have come from a hectic household. This may be something that you're already aware of when you first start to work with your class, or could be something that you learn as time with your pupils grow. You may have pupils who have a plan in place to support them through their school life, such as an education healthcare plan or an individual development plan for Welsh students. These are detailed plans that discuss behavioural challenges present for the pupil or any other considerations that may be needed to enhance their learning journey. You may have pupils in your class who have English as a second language, and this poses its own challenges when you're making sure that the learning has been understood. These pupils may be highly academic, but if these pupils feel that they can't communicate with you or their peers, they may become isolated or apprehensive about the lessons ahead. Also, as a staff member, you need to make sure that you communicate tasks, rules, or safety instructions. And if that's misunderstood, you could have serious repercussions. You may have pupils in your class with SEND or learning difficulties that you need to plan or accommodate for. And you will have your gifted and talented and those who just need a little extra time. It's a really long list. This can be a lot of work. and if this isn't done correctly, could also have a detrimental effect on the pupil's learning and development. Let's take a look at the challenges that you might face when planning or delivering a lesson to a mixed ability class. You might find it challenging to provide relevant learning for all. Pace your lesson to meet the needs of all of your learners. If it's too fast or too slow, you risk disengaging some of your lesson. Avoid boredom in certain children. This can be an issue if the lesson isn't aimed at their level. Use relevant materials and resources that cater to all abilities. Give your attention and focus to individuals. Some pupils may need more attention than you can spare, and others may be more self-sufficient pupils, but they might be missing out on your focus altogether. Or have enough preparation time to ensure your lesson is mixed ability appropriate. So how can you make sure that you juggle all of these considerations for your pupils in your class, while also making sure that the learning is valuable and appropriate for all? We're going to take a look at some helpful tips to make you feel equipped for any challenge that a mixed ability class may throw at you. But if you've had any experience of managing multiple abilities, or any tips or tricks yourself, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And whilst you're there, please like, subscribe and click on the bell to hear more from My Progression. One way to make it easier to manage multiple differences, abilities or considerations in your class is to create a grouping of pupils. This grouping may look different depending on the ages or setting that you're working in. For example, we know that primary teachers are likely to work with the same class day in, day out, whereas a secondary teacher is likely to have a mix of classes every day. If you have 10 different classes to teach, that's a lot of grouping. If you're planning to use groups to arrange your pupils based on their abilities, it needs to be done sensitively and appropriately. For example, using phrases top set or bottom set could be negatively affecting a pupil's self-esteem and might impact the effort they put in their lessons. When I was at school, the top set class were known as boffins by the popular pupils, often being teased and called a suck-up or teacher's pet. The same pupils would have an equally upsetting name for the lower ability group, and the pupils in there had a "what's the point" approach to their learning because of this. Grouping your pupils based on their differences, abilities or considerations can be done in lots of ways. In a primary setting, you might use traffic light groupings, where a different colour is a different level or support that they require. For example, your green group may be highly able and communicative, so require less supervision or support, whereas the red or yellow group might need more guidance or direction. When you do this, another thing to consider is the seating plan you use. It's all well and good giving your pupils a colour based on the support they require, but if they're spread all over your class, you're going to spend the whole lesson chasing your tail. Instead, consider how you can group these together in a way that makes the lesson run as smoothly as possible. You might decide that the green group will be sat at the back of your classroom because you can rely on them to crack on with their work without distracting each other. And the red group may be at the front to make it easier to support them in a smaller group. If you have a teaching assistant in your class, this can be a huge help when it comes to accommodating multiple needs or abilities. You may decide that you're going to sit the green group closer to you so you can challenge them with more complex tasks. And the red group can sit next to Mr. Walker, who can support them and keep them on their task. Now in this example, we've used red, yellow and green, but you can use any colour in any order. Using a standard traffic light system might make the pupils feel that red group is bad. So to avoid this, you might decide that your high achievers are the red group, or choose completely different colours altogether. Generally speaking, as pupils progress through their school years, the groupings move from being based on their differences or considerations to academic ability. In larger primary schools, you might find pupils being based on their academic success, but this is more likely to take place in a secondary school. Often, pupils will complete an assessment at the beginning of the school year, which will then determine which group they'll be placed in, meaning all the pupils in the class are working at a similar level. However, you may need to consider how these groupings might make your children feel. You want to avoid making any pupils feel demoralised, inadequate or under pressure by their groupings. This is the way it worked in my high school. However, during GCSE English, they trialled mixed ability classes. This wasn't a lesson that had been mixed ability for the whole school journey, but they saw a positive change in results by combining these academic levels. The less academic pupils were challenged by the group discussions when the higher achieving pupils were having them. And the higher achieving pupils developed too, as they had to discuss their thoughts or answers in more detail to make sure everyone understood. Mixed ability classes pose lots of challenges, but they can also be really beneficial for all the pupils in the class. Remember, learning differences are more than just about their academic ability, and by grouping your pupils based on a variety of factors, such as their learning needs, behaviour, backgrounds, or social groups can make a huge difference on their learning journey. Our next video on mixed ability classes will cover the do's and don'ts of planning and delivering lessons to mixed ability classes, as well as some really helpful tips that make you feel really confident with these classes and anything they've got to throw at you. I've been Alex from My Progression, and let's keep your career in motion.